Russia dumps treasuries for gold. Holdings of U.S. government debt cut in half.
The land of Arcadia.
Well, hello there, my friends, and welcome to Arcadia. Chris Marcus here with you on Friday, June 22nd, 2018. And a pretty wild week in the financial markets, with the big news being that Russia dumped a lot of their treasuries, according to the latest data, and are buying a lot of gold. So with that said, let's dig in. And before we get to that story, did an interview with Dave Kranzler of Investment Research Dynamics this week, which is posted on the Arcadia site. It was really great to talk with Dave because, again, he has a background trading. He's worked inside some of these banks, understand how the game works from seeing it firsthand. And fortunately, he was kind enough to share a lot of that insight with us in the interview. So take a look at that. And why is that relevant? Because, as I mentioned, Bloomberg reporting Russia dumps treasuries for gold, holdings of U.S. government debt cut in half. And as we will cover, or we can go to it right now, great post by Louis Camarasano of Small Gold, if we can get that loaded up here, which documents really the big change in allocation that's going on. There's plenty of charts down here. You can see in the green, that's where the Treasury holdings really just kind of dropped in half last month. And there's further charts here that show the increase in gold holdings. And it's really significant, especially that it's happening now. We've seen the Chinese develop a petro yuan, talk about a yuan-backed precious metals contract, also holding a meeting with African nations to discuss using the yuan as the reserve currency. Other nations making arrangements outside of US dollar financing. And here, really, one of the largest nations just cutting their treasury allocation in half. Certainly, there's the tension that has gone on throughout the world in regards to the U.S. debt financing. So this is a big player making a rather big move. Again, we'll see how that unfolds. But given when you see all these tensions building, I mean, well, perhaps it's not enough yet to say that the dollar is going to crash tomorrow. Certainly the signs that you would look for before that eventually happening, I would call this a big one. I mean, I'm stunned where it's like a week ago you find out there's countries talking about the yuan as reserve currency, and you're wondering, well, what could be next? And here it is. So, of course, if one of the biggest customers is selling treasuries, buying gold, that fits in with what I've been seeing and why I like gold and silver and cryptos and assets that are hedges against the current dollar system as we know it, because it sure looks to me like it is rapidly approaching some sort of a break point. All right, and let's shift over here to CNBC. Check out today's headline. Increased threat of a trade war is ramping up fears of a full-blown recession. With the latest news here being that Trump has threatened a 20% tariff on European auto manufacturers. It was on the car imports. And certainly, again, as I've mentioned before, to the degree that we look at these things on the surface, certainly a trade war for a country with our fiscal condition is not a good thing. Yet, to the degree that I keep hearing through the grapevine that Trump is actually aware and understands the economics of some of these things, and perhaps is not quite as we seem, with many speculating that is this a way of crashing the banking system, which has controlled so much of Western life for decades. And as we'll see in our next slide, you may refer to it as the deep state. There's a lot of different names, but essentially the bankers, that government officials that run the show. And here we have former Secret Service agent files RICO suit against Clinton, Soros, Podesta, and Brock. I have to temper this with, I felt pretty much since 2011 that something was really brewing. So whether it's imminent or not, I can't say for sure, although, gee, it sure feels like a lot of things are building. The news about crimes that families like the Clintons and Bushes have allegedly been involved with. Again, this is on Zero Hedge, so you can read this for yourself. But certainly it seems like there's a lot of evidence that is now being moved into a next stage of legal discovery. So we'll see how all of that unfolds. A quick look over here at the silver market today. Not a terribly large amount happening in the actual pricing yet. That doesn't mean that that can't change quickly because, again, the reports continue to surface that there are as many as 500 paper claims to each physical ounce. And if you really have situation where people are rushing to gold, which it seems like Russia is. We have countries repatriating their gold. So while it hasn't really happened as much on a personal level, perhaps in the US, I think that, and as we discussed in the interview that I did with Dave Kranzler, and I like the way he put it, that it would be likely multiples higher if we had some sort of true price discovery. A quick note on one of everybody's favorite banks, JP Morgan Chase, to pay $65 million penalty for attempted manipulation of US dollar index. Again, I put this in here I know there's some who think it's conspiracy theory to imagine that a bank would manipulate a market, but just putting another enforcement action. This happened this week. And I think that in due time, you will find there has been something like this, but even bigger in the precious metals markets, which is why, again, I like buying gold and silver. While they're basically trading at what it costs to get them out of the ground. Now over to our other anti-dollar market, the cryptos, which look like they've taken a big beating overnight, which certainly if you're already long cryptos, there's a couple ways to look at it. Certainly prices are down quite a lot, yet to the degree that I don't see anything that has fundamentally changed from when they were multiples higher than this a couple months ago. And certainly when you look at the events that are occurring and the move away from the dollar, I continue to hear, I can't verify, although I would say I'm starting to believe more and more that there is an active effort underway to transition over to a more stable system, which will involve cryptos, will involve gold and silver. And to the degree that we never know what's planned, it's interesting the options that are available at any given time. And from what I hear, I think we will see an exciting end of 2018. So I actually did buy some more Litecoin and Veritasium this week. I will be buying some more Litecoin at $85. Hopefully, if I get all of my trades in while the price, because if you think the dollar and the Treasury market have the ability to exist going forward on some sort of long-term basis, then perhaps that would not make the cryptos a wise investment. But from what I'm seeing, I continue to see this as where things are headed. So with that said, should be an interesting next couple of months. As always, hit the subscribe button. I will keep you posted on my view of how things are going. Leave any questions below. As always, appreciate you watching and hope you do have a great weekend. And I will see you next week.